So, welcome back to Grace by Faith. I'm Rose Watson, and this week we're continuing our series on work hurt. And this week I just have a question for you. Working for what? What are you working for? And it takes me back to a time when I was about 23, 24 years old, and I just given birth to my youngest daughter. And 10 days after I went um, and gave birth to her, she was born prematurely. But by God's grace, we all got discharged from the hospital at the same time. She's 10 days old, and I go back to work. I had graduated from college, I had a degree, but there were no open roles at Child Protective Services for me to be an investigator or a caseworker. So I took a job transporting children that were introduced to the agency back and forth to their doctor's appointments, meeting with foster parents. So I was just like an Uber for Child Protective Services. And I so desperately wanted to utilize my degree. I wanted to make more money. I wanted to prove everybody so wrong that they thought me having 2.5 kids when I graduated from college, like that, I was a failure. I couldn't do anything right. I wanted to do right by my kids. And so 10 days after I had given birth to her, I got the opportunity to go back to Child Protective Services, but this time as an investigator. And so as I posed that question to you, I had to ask myself this question in reflection, in hindsight, that I'm hoping that you'll get to ask yourself this question reflectively, but also to think about as you move forward. Working for what? I left a 10-day-old premature baby at home to prove to other people that I wasn't a failure, to make a name for myself in Child Protective Services. But what was the exchange? We were so poor, we didn't have any money. My husband at the time was like washing cars and working overnight at Albertsons. And I felt like he had put in the time and dedication with me so I could pursue school. And he worked these odd, hard jobs in the Texas heat, washing other people's cars, so that I could go to school. I felt like I owed it to him, to give him the opportunity to pursue his dreams. And so I left what is now, I recognize, the greatest gift I received from God: a family, a husband, children. And I decided to do that, to leave that in exchange for money, for prestige, to put in somebody's face that they were wrong about me. So working for what? Jesus asked this question in Mark chapter 8. What does it profit a man to gain the whole world and lose his soul? I want us to think about that. What does it profit you to gain the world and lose your soul? And what is your soul? It's your imagination, your creativity, your will, your desires, your heart, your emotions. Was that the best exchange? And in hindsight, I can say absolutely not. In hindsight, when I'm thinking about me and my youngest daughter's relationship, when I'm thinking about how I've always felt like our bond or our connection was kind of broken, how I've always had this mom guilt concerning her, that like my body couldn't even do right by her and carry her to term. And then I go and I leave her 10 days. And my job was so demanding. I was getting calls 2, 3 o'clock in the morning to go to families' homes, to go and remove their children that were in like very seriously dangerous situations. I'm talking about generational trauma, sexual abuse, medical neglect, abandonment. I'm talking about meth houses blowing up. That's the stuff that was on my cases. But look what I was sent out to do, to protect and to nurture and to care and to investigate what was going on with those problems in that family. I left mine open and vulnerable. So working for what? Yes, and that was good work and it was fulfilling work. But I left work undone in my own home, in my own marriage, in my own relationship with my children, in my own mothering. So working for what? And I think that is a question that we need to seriously ponder about when we are so hell bent on working. What is the work that we are leaving undone? And what's the exchange rate? My relationship with my children, my relationship with my husband, it wasn't that work, that job, that paycheck. We were still poor. I was working full time and still needed to be on food stamps. Like, it wasn't worth it. And so I'm not saying it won't be worth it for you, but I'm just saying make sure that you know what it is that you are actually profiting, or if you are actually profiting, because I profited nothing. When you weigh the scales, I actually came up with a deficit. And so something to think about as we race to these jobs and we race for these titles and we look for these promotions, and you know, what is your driver? Because that's going to determine if you come up with a deficit. If your driver, if your motivator is wrong, you're going to come up with a deficit. And so my perspective had to shift. What is most important? What do I prioritize most? I got to prioritize my kids. I got to prioritize myself. I got to prioritize God. What is he giving to me? Am I a good steward over that? Have I stewarded that well before I go trying to save and steward other stuff? And so, especially women in the workplace, sometimes it's like reverse psychology with the devil. We have to know spiritual warfare, and we have to know the schemes of Satan. He'll use reverse psychology, like, you know, like, you was never meant to be in the workplace. They don't want you there. You're inferior. The first commandment from God to Adam was work the garden. Steward what I've given you really well, Adam. That command didn't come to women. When God saw Adam stewarding it, but because our God is a God of multiplication, he said it's not good for man to be alone, because no multiplication could happen with man without a helper, without Eve. So God then said it's not good for man to be alone, and he presented Adam a helper. So Adam was stewarding and working really well, but for scale, he sent Eve. So where is the spiritual warfare? Where is the sneakiness of Satan? He'll make you think that you the one supposed to be working and hitting the ground 40 hours. I'm the breadwinner. I'm the head of the household. They think I can't do that. They think I'm inferior. No. He knows that once anybody is out of position, once anybody is out of pocket, the family structure is vulnerable to attack. So he uses reverse psychology to accomplish that. He'll take a little bit of a truth and a little bit of a lie and plant it, and we take hold of it. So women, it's not that we're inferior, that maybe the workplace is not for us. It's that by God's design, that command, that opportunity to work the garden that he was given to Adam. We were put there to scale it, to multiply it. Adam could do no multiplication. There could be no multiplication for man without Eve. And so women in the workplace, ask yourself, working for what? And I'm single now. I'm divorced now. And so there is a need, there's a necessity for me to work, but is it out of my home? So I want you to stop and think about that. You know, if you don't have a husband, if you're a single woman, God says in his scripture that he is being your husband. God, what work are you doing on my behalf? And then how do I scale that and multiply? Because we working ourselves silly. And again, the question that I started with, working for what? Y'all be blessed. I love y'all. God is phenomenal. Join us next week again to continue our work hurt series, where we're diving into work hurt. What is it? What are our experiences? And how can we move forward and heal from this stuff?